All right, welcome everybody to the Nashville Modern Excel and Power BI user group, especially if this is your first time joining us. Welcome. So I've introduced this group many times, and so I'm always I don't want to get just into the boring spiel. So we have a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old boy, and we were thinking of Christmas presents for them. And I've always liked Legos, and they like playing with Legos. But the little Legos are too little. And so my wife, and they have the big Legos, but my wife discovered that there's medium-sized Legos. And anyway, I thought that could explain what this group is about. So this is a group about Power BI, Excel, the Power Platform, and these tools are not really as complicated as software developer tools, but they're also not so basic that they're like Duplos. They're medium Legos. So we can do with these tools, we can easily accomplish some very serious software development, but it makes it easier and quicker. So anyway, there's my little metaphor for you about what this group is about today.
Will, if you're comparing me to your 2- and 3-year-old, I'm a little offended, I must say.
No, Aaron, you are certainly much more experienced than they are.
And I like it. Nicely done.
Nice. So our agenda for today, obviously we're still mourning the loss of our time together, but it's good to connect over Zoom while we can't be together. So we're going to go through a few announcements. We'll talk about what's new in Excel and Power BI, and then we'll hear from William about source control with Power BI. And I'm very curious to hear the tricks he's got up his sleeve for accomplishing that. And then we'll stick around a little bit after if you have time to just do some Q&A or just connect and hear how everybody's doing. I want to start off by we wanted to highlight MinTech, which is a recruiting and staffing agency focused on diversity. And we have Karen Williams with us on the call to share a little bit about MinTech. Karen, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Good to hear from you. Karen, so Seiko knows Karen and connected us. And she did have a data analyst type role open when we first talked to her, but she has since closed that. So I guess you're a productive recruiter, so you get those positions closed. So
yes, yes, I guess so. Thank you.
Yeah, we'd love to hear about your organization and what you can offer to our group.
Yeah, so I am Karen. I am originally from Memphis, but I relocated here to Nashville. And so I recently started this company in 2018. And again, it is a diversity tech recruiting company. And we look for diverse talent for our clients that are all over. And the great thing, I hate to say that COVID caused a great thing, but now more companies are open to remote roles, which makes it a lot easier to fill these roles. Where people don't have to up and relocate their families. So we do have a host of jobs open. You can go to our website at careers@mintechagency.com and see those. They range from what's on the board now, staff. And now we do have a staff software engineer and a senior staff software engineer, and they are for a data engineering team. I thought about that afterwards. So they are more so heavily focused on the data side, but they are looking for someone that has that Python or Java experience on the coding side as well. So we just look to, get connected with different groups that are, focused on these areas and see how we can partner and connect.
Thank you. Well, we certainly have a lot of people coming to our group and a diverse background that are looking for opportunities. So we'd love to pass people your way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah. And Karen's contact info and website is down there. So if anybody wants to screenshot that real quick and connect with her, please do. Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Some upcoming meetings we have in the next few months. So next month, this is amazing. We've got Alberto Ferrari. So if you don't know Alberto Ferrari or Marco Russo, so when I first, when Power Pivot first came out, these guys were the experts then. So they've been experts in this space for many years. And they actually live in Italy. So Alberto is going to present to us in December from Italy remotely. And he's going to talk about calculation groups, which is a really exciting new feature in Power BI. So you won't want to miss that. That's posted on the meetup, and you can RSVP right now if you want to. And then in February, we've got Bill Anton, who's from Atlanta, and he's also another great presenter and Microsoft MVP. I've heard him speak and met him in person, and he's great. And he's going to share time intelligence patterns in DAX with us in February. And then we've got Matthew Roche, who works for Microsoft, and he's kind of been focused on the Power Query Online data flows in Power BI. But he also talks a lot about building a data culture with Power BI. And so he's going to present to us on that topic in March. So that should be, so these, I'm just shocked that I guess the remote meetup is allowing us to get all these amazing people around the country because we don't have to fly them in. So these are all MVP level people. So very excited to have them on our schedule.
Will, just to add one more to that, we also
Yes.
have Megan Longoria in January.
Okay, nice. I didn't have that on my list. Sorry about that. Thanks, Michael, for that clarification. So what's new? So Excel, if you have the Office 365 version, it gets updates periodically depending on when your organization pushes those. And there's a couple exciting ones I thought I would demo real quick for you guys. So one of the updates that came out in the last month. So I have a Microsoft Surface. I have a pen if you can see it on my video. So you've been able to, of course, draw on all of your Office stuff for a while. I have bad handwriting. But what they added in the past month is that you could actually write in the cell. So I'm gonna we'll give that a minute. Oh, so Seiko got your name wrong.
Maybe it's the handwriting.
Must be. There it goes. So I can just populate. Oh, that didn't work, did it? Number one. Come on here. Okay, whatever. It is the handwriting. It worked for me when I tested it before. And so another cool one is the highlighter. So I can snap to cells. So you can imagine you're reviewing a document and you want to just highlight things. You can kind of just highlight and it will actually color fill the background. So anyway, that's a cool feature if you have a Surface type or kind of a pen input. And so this next one I think I'm more excited about. It is called the let function. So this might be a little more on the advanced side, but cool nonetheless. So I'm going to zoom back out. So when you use the pen, it does automatically zoom in, which is nice. So you can write in the cells. So I'm just going to pretend this is my data set here, and I'm going to put it into Power Query. So if you guys have used Power Query for those of you who know Power Query, you might know the let function. It's kind of at the beginning of every Power Query expression. So I'm just going to do a quick multi-step calculation here. So I just want to calculate the average sales, and I'm going to pretend like the average function doesn't exist. And I could have been more creative with this demo, but so I'm going to do I'm going to go to this column and say, add it up. So this is the total sales. And then I'm just going to do a count of rows. And this is going to be rename. And then I'm just going to do the division here. Uh-oh. Divide. All right, so we got this is our average sales per is 2.333. So I'm going to go ahead and load that in. What I want to show you is the code that Power Query generates is it starts with let, and then for each step over here, you kind of have so count people, and it has the expression and kind of sets this variable. And then you have this variable that's set by this expression. And then you can use those later in a later step. And then it finally returns the result. So anyway, this is a long build up to what I want to show you that's new in Excel. So I'll just load this into our spreadsheet here. So I'm going to come to this cell here, and I'm going to put in my new let expression. So it's equals let. And so I'm going to say total sales, comma, sum this. And then I'm actually going to do a new line just to keep this organized, and it's going to be count people. And it's going to be count of the people. And I'll do another row, and then we're going to do the division. So we're going to do total sales divided by count of people. There it is. So this could be good if you have a really complicated Excel formula and you don't need to have multiple cells and you just put it in one place. I'm sure there's other great ways you can encapsulate logic and reuse it, but I think that's pretty cool and wanted to highlight that for you guys, the let function. So for those of you who like Power Query, that's another cool function to add to your tool belt.
Hey, Will, do you have to input that in the Power Query first for that to work?
No, you don't. It's just an Excel function. So
Okay, cool.
I was just comparing it, making that connection for you that I think it was Power Query inspired. So they added it to Excel because it's a great programming paradigm to reuse steps and keep it organized like that. I think that's where it came from. So what's new in Power BI Desktop? So this month, this just came out a few days ago. So go to powerbi.com and you can watch a video that will go through all these changes, and you can download the new Power BI Desktop. But they've got a new field list, so they're just keeping things looking updated and modern and user-friendly. So they've got a new field list look that's in preview. They've got a new model view that's in preview. And they're paving the way for composite models, I think, with this update to how the model view looks. Let's see what else. I'm just going to hit the highlights here. I think the data point rectangle select, so that's where you can kind of lasso data points on a map. That should be really useful. They have another AI visual called anomaly detection, which looks really cool and very useful. So lots of good stuff coming out. And you can go to the Power BI blog. This will be highlighted there, and you can watch they have like a 30-minute video going through these new features. And then we also want to just look at what's new in the Power Platform as a whole briefly. So the whole platform got icon updates, as you may have noticed. So these are the before and after. So I think they look nice. And this is where the Power Platform, this is the Power Platform. You've got Power BI. And then if you haven't heard of these other ones, because we're more Power BI focused in this user group, but try to highlight the others. Power Apps is kind of the equivalent, but for developing mobile applications or web applications. And then Power Automate is more of integrating with systems, so connecting to APIs or automating manual tasks. And it also includes robotic automation more recently. So that's more automating the mouse clicks on a computer or on a web page or a application that doesn't have APIs. And then Power Virtual Agents is a low-code chatbot that so you can develop chatbots. So these are as I said, the medium Legos. And whereas if you're a pro developer, you would be using Visual Studio and some of the Azure services. So these are kind of a easier way to develop dashboards, apps, and API integrations and chatbots. So that's what the Power Platform is all about. Some new things in the Power BI service. So data flows, which is kind of the Power Query Online. It's more robust than that, but it's got a lot of features. And it's actually getting features before Power BI Desktop. So kind of a reversal here where Power BI Desktop's not the latest. But I wanted to just show you in the browser real quick. So Power Query, I hope this isn't too small, but it's got a new visual diagram view where you can see how your queries connect to one another. And it actually lets you edit and add transformations within that more visual experience up there. So you can still edit the table and do transformations there or in the visual view as well. So this is only in data flows right now, but it will absolutely come to Power BI Desktop because they're going to try to keep these, make these have parity. And so this is in preview if you're using data flows. Let me jump back. Also, so there's the diagram view. They also have a fuzzy group by and clustering values. So this is also pretty neat and will be nice to have. So basically, you can do a group by, but also it's fuzzy because you can ignore the case. You can have it kind of smartly combine related text. And you've got like a slider for how much you want it to take over and decide what gets grouped together. So you probably can't read it, but there's a Bill, there's a Will, there's Miguel spelled different ways. And then when it grouped it, it put the Will and the Bill together because they were similar enough. And so that's kind of how it would work. Then the clustering uses probably the same algorithm. It looks like it's got the same options, but instead of aggregating your data, it just adds a new column with kind of less distinct values. It would do the same grouping. And it looks like it adds a similarity measure as well, which could be interesting for depending on what type of analysis you're doing. Also, the data flow. So if you're using premium, there's a enhanced compute engine, and so they're now enabling that by default. So that's supposed to get you make your Power Queries 10 times as fast. And I think it depends on what you're doing, but I think they're creatively caching data and using that cache to speed things up. So this is something I did not hear in the news, but I think I was reading this post about anomaly detection, and I noticed in the Microsoft employees preview features, I saw small multiples down here. So that's been a visual that's been requested for a long time. It's basically, you can make, if you have a line chart, you could put on a category field and it would show like 9 different line charts by each of those groupings. So you can kind of view a visual for all those categories in one view. And so that's been, I'm sure that's complicated for them to program, and it's been requested for a long time. So it looks like it is coming because it's here on this Microsoft employees preview list. So I just thought I would mention that because that's exciting. Then we've got Power BI Premium per user preview, public preview coming out. So that's Power BI Premium doesn't always work for small to medium businesses. So this is a new licensing model for Power BI Premium where medium to small businesses could take advantage of it as well. Because before it would only make financial sense if you're a really big organization to use Premium. And then finally, there's been some updates to the publish to web feature because there's been Power BI is getting used more for public reporting. And so they've enhanced that. There's several updates there that you can read about in the blog. Power Apps, so not too much here. This is just, so we told you a few months ago that they renamed the Common Data Service to DataFlex, and we kind of rolled our eyes at that name. Well, I guess a lot of people rolled their eyes and they renamed it again to Dataverse. So the Common Data Service in Teams is called Dataverse. I have not used it yet, but just wanted to let you know that change had happened.
Well, that's actually also a limited version of CDS. So it's small, kind of CDS light.
Yeah, I noticed it said for Teams, so I imagined it was a specific for Teams. So is Common Data Service still the name for the Common Data Service at large?
Yeah, you know what? I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. And you may, Belinda, you may be able to weigh on this as well. I saw that they were changing the terminology from entity to table, and this should say now. That's a typo on my fault, on my part here. It is now.
Yeah, I mean, it's always basically been the same thing. So
yeah, but I did think that table and column and row was more friendly and more what you're used to in the Power Platform versus entity.
Right, and all of that's in Teams has it's not the same price point. As a matter of fact, a lot of it's free with Teams.
Okay, nice.
Yes,
that's great. And then one more thing is that the Gartner Magic Quadrant for the low-code apps came out, and Microsoft is here. They're a leader, but there's still some more visionaries and some more companies that are executing better according to this, but they're still up there. The Power Apps product, at least, is a leader in that space. And then Power Automate. So they have a new Power Automate app for Teams, similar to Power Apps. They're really trying to, with everybody working remotely, make things work well in Teams. So you can now develop Power Automate in Teams, like you can do Power Apps and then share it in Teams. And then there's an update to the Power Automate desktop. And I think in the last meeting, we had a question about what exactly is this? Is this just the remote robotic process automation where it's recording your mouse clicks? Or is it doing the traditional Power Automate, and I learned that it's just the robotic part. If you're doing the API traditional Power Automate, that's still in the web. So that was something we had a question about last meetup and didn't know the answer. Power Platform Bootcamp. So we have our own bootcamp. We have a lot of people coming who want to learn. So we kind of we offer recommended self-directed trainings. So there's obviously more intense boot camps where you could do stuff in person, but this is just one that you could do self-directed. We just point you to the resources that are really, really great out there where you could learn on your own at your own pace. And we do want to build some community around learning and being a part of this user group. So if you want to be a part of it, you could message me on Meetup or in the chat. I'll check the chat once I'm done talking. But I can send you this PDF for more information about the boot camp. But you try to earn badges, and then we recognize people who achieve certain things. So you can get a badge for coming to 6 meetings, for being a speaker. And then we have these self-directed courses that we recommend. A lot of them are paid because they're just they're more high quality. They're going to you're going to learn faster by going through a coherent outline versus just watching a bunch of YouTube videos. I'm currently working on DAX patterns. It's been slow going just because it's just hard to sit down and watch a lot of videos, but it's been really good. I've learned a lot from it so far. And then if you work on projects at work, we have reviewers that could review it and give you a beginner, intermediate, or expert badge for completing that project, depending on what software you're using in the Power Platform. So if you're interested, just chat me and you can be a part of it. I do want to recognize 2 people who earned badges this month. So we've got Matt Barnes. This is your 6th user group meeting badge. So good job, Matt. Thanks for being a part of our group. And then Pam Butler joined our group, joined the boot camp last month, and this is her 6th user group meeting as this month. So thank you, Pam. All right, William, I'm gonna turn it over to you. Let me.
All right.
You're welcome to share when you're ready.
Share. Oh, you cannot share screen.
Yeah,
while
if I can.
other...
Oh yeah. Let me stop sharing. I guess I'm the host, so.
Yeah, that's okay. Let me get it.
So William and I met when you were at Lee Company, and you were the
Correct.
senior solution architect there, and you have since moved on. Do you want to tell people what you're up to these days?
Sure. Let me actually did the stereotypical
Yeah.
Power BI PowerPoint with this stuff on here. So we'll start out here. First thing, we're going to call it Power BI protection. Source control is kind of air quotes with Power BI. It's one of those, it's not your standard issue DevOps source control with branches and masters and all this. This is going to be kind of a user interactive protection and versioning of Power BI. So we're going to go from that. About myself, yes, I am the senior data architect at myNEXUS right now, which is in Brentwood. We are in, I think, we're healthcare. We're in 12 separate states right now, have something like 3 million members or customers, as we call them. And like Will said before, I was at Lee Company as the senior BI architect there. Basically went from 0 to hero with Power BI 4 years ago. Almost had no BI implementation there, and by the end of it, we had 50 creators of Power BI reports, dashboards, data sets, and then anywhere between 200 to 500 consumers. Had enough input that we were actually able to procure Power BI Premium and put that in place, if that lets you know just how the scale of it was. So about myself, there are 2 organizations that I'm involved in currently here in Nashville. One is the HDI Music City chapter, help desk initiative, doing that because we're trying to get people involved in IT. We have found out with the coronavirus and a few other things that there are a lot of high IT aptitude people, and we want to see that spark. We want to see them get involved, and a lot of times people don't know how to get into technology, and that's where the Help Desk Institute kind of helps out with that, with training and things like that. So I might actually be hitting up Will for a few speakers on the data side of the fence to come help and prolong that. Then, of course, I'm involved with PAS, SQL PAS, SQL Saturdays here in Nashville, SQL Saturdays in Chattanooga. Just finished up this past week, PAS Virtual Summit 2020, which I don't know if anybody here went to that. That was very interesting and way different than Seattle. Seattle and Halloween is always a fun endeavor. So doing virtual from when it was supposed to be in Houston was pretty good. Now, more about myself. This has been my 2020 so far. Had a very big milestone birthday. I turned 21 several years ago, but no, had a big birthday this year in February. March, married my fiance of a couple of years. July, swapped jobs in the middle of all of this hecticness. And then October decided, we've not done enough, let's buy a house. So we moved to Nolensville and all that. So who says you can't work from home and do other stuff? So we did that and kept moving forward. Now, a little personality about me. I'm like Oprah. When I find something, everybody gets it. And my favorite item so far, outside of Legos, I'm a huge Lego fan, has been the Soda Stream. Make your own personal Cokes and sodas and fizzy waters and all of that. This is going to be my Christmas present to most everybody in my family. So I think I've got 10 of these ordered right now. So everybody's getting a Soda Stream. Now, whether they like it or not, I might end up with 9 of these back at my house, but it's at least my favorite product. Now, let's talk about Power BI. One of the things that I wanted to go over, and that's where I was a little, just kind of wanted to know from you, Will, is that since we're medium Legos, does that mean that the experience level is medium Legos, that everybody is Power BI, or do we have some newcomers and then we've got some experts? And I figure we kind of a pretty wide range here.
We probably have more beginners, but we definitely have some experts as well, and people on the medium side. So we have a pretty diverse group, but there are several people here checking things out and at the beginner level.
Good. Then we will head down the dark tunnel path, the Wizard of Oz aspect of Power BI, where it starts out with this very high lofty goal, and then where you can go down these really deep dark crevices that you want your mama. It's really scary, but there's good parts about this. So what is Power BI? Well, it's a reporting tool. Visuals. Get from these numbers to this green thumbs up. Hey, we're making money. No, we're not. We've got more virus. We don't. And then interpretation. You're helping to write narratives for the company. How you can put a positive spin on a very negative situation with some of these tools. It's a data discovery tool with Power Query. With all this, you can smash up information. I mean, come on now. The executable that it runs on your computer is called mashup.exe. It's a data discovery tool. It's mashing up all this information, doing it. And then we were talking just a little bit before this started about the cognitive services, the machine learning. Can you get some of that fuzzy lookup? Can you get it to recognize someone's personality based upon their photo? Can you do speech to text? Can you do unstructured data to structure it? Yeah, that's what Power BI kind of gets you into. You saw that middle Lego block that Will was talking about, that you saw those lot of Azure list of things. Well, those underpinnings, those logic apps, cognitive service and all that, those are available once you start tuning and tweaking Power BI and really start getting into more of a corporate environment. Step-by-step coding. Will, you did a phenomenal job of showing the let command. Well, the good part is you're actually able to see that recipe on the right-hand side of where you did it inside of Excel with Power Query or inside of Power BI, and you're able to replay those different steps. So it really helps that zero to hero aspect of someone doing it. And then there's the Microsoft platform, which is phenomenal. Power Automate, Power Apps, Power BI, Excel, this whole ecosystem that with inquiry and a few other little things, you can tie it all together. SharePoint, Teams, all this, again, it's just all works. And that's what Microsoft spent a lot of money on and doing really good about. Then Power BI, let's talk about this. It's $10 a month per user for the pro version. That's a good price. That's an insanely good price for most reporting systems or reporting platforms. Then there's even a free version. So we know that when you start going to Eastern Europe and you start going to other countries, free is good. There's going to be a lot of education on this. There's going to be a lot of people start using this even more. And as we move forward, it's going to be one of these things that's taught in colleges and taught to middle schoolers, high schoolers, and all this, because it is a free tool and it's able to go. Now, Gartner, these guys, influencers, they tell you how it is, and a lot of times people follow. They say Microsoft is in the upper right, extreme upper right with Power BI. It's the way things are going. Microsoft is investing billions of dollars, I mean, billions of dollars into moving this forward. And that's what is great. And that's where we have to kind of start looking at protecting ourselves. How do we version this? How do we source control? What can we do? Because it's on the wall. This is the way things are going. Power BI is going to be an analytic tool for years. Now, Microsoft is good to be the king. It is. It's great because there's so much influence right now. There's so many different things you can tie in. There's Azure data catalogs, which lets you connect directly up to Power BI. You basically say, show me this table. Now show it to me in Power BI. Let me explore it. Let me look at that data discovery piece. Now, when we start going down the path of creation, we create these reports. And this leads me now to our talk. We've created this report. We've had if we're lucky enough to have a BA and a project manager, they've gone through and said, here are the requirements. Here's what you need to do. And as usual business intelligence reporting people, data people, we take this information, we make it visual, we get it ready, and we present it to the company. And it's our baby. It's our puppy. We show it to them and say, here you go. This is what I've come up with. This is how we represent our finances. And the CFO says, thumbs up, this is great. Just keep it showing good. And it's like, well, I can't do that, but I write the report. Now we run into the part of this. Kimball even says it, the business owns it, now hand it over. And some of y'all are consultants. You write these reports, you do this, and it's scary because you are taking this hours of work that you've done or this piece of information, now you've got to hand it over to the business. And you're going to let them do stuff with it. And this is my image that comes up because it's monkeys typing on the laptop. I'd rather teach them fire. A lot of times it's easier to teach them my tools than it is to teach me the business. And that's the truth. And that's a hard part for our side of the fence as far as the data people understand. First two rules, get the funding, get the money for the project. Second rule, the business owns it. Now the third rule is remember rule 1 and rule 2, because sometimes it's like monkeys trying to type out a letter. Now they get in, they start modifying this report, they do their own thing, and they say, now I've changed it, find it and fix it. So now we play Where's Waldo? There are different tools within Office right now, 365 groups and teams that help this become a lot easier to find out where people are saving things. We're doing OneDrive's great, but to be honest, when you get people out of the tech sector and you start getting them into doing that collaborative nature, it goes willy-nilly. It's just darts on a wall. They start doing fun stuff. Now this leads us to what we're trying to do. Now the Microsoft ecosystem pieces that we're going to be using. So we're going to be using Power BI. Again, that's the big part of this. SharePoint. SharePoint plays a major role in this versioning and this source control aspect. Teams and OneDrive. Once we mash all these together, we start getting some really good stuff to go forward with. Now, that's my slide presentation for right there, just kind of getting everybody used to where I start from and then where we normally go to. Now, I will say, I'm like Will, I like the new icons that have popped up. It scared me the other day when the update happened and all the icons changed, because I'm like, oh Lord, Microsoft is screwing things up again. You know, they're changing the world, but that's the old sysadmin in me. Once I set it up, it's done, it's configured, don't change a thing. Well, Power BI is one of these, and the Power ecosystem, it changes every 2 weeks, once a month. They change it all the time. Heck, even the names of things. They're like, yeah, we'll change it this name, then that name will go back and forth. So one of the things that we run into when we start creating reports, and I thought I had Power BI pulled up. I did. I'll pull it up again. So I have a pretty standard report that I downloaded from the internet. Just something. Just, hey, this is what's going on and all that stuff. And we've gone through and we'll actually remove a component just to make a change and do all that. And again, this is just static data. We're not really worried about the data set component right now. And we're going to do the standard issue. We're going to publish it. Now, if you've done anything like this, first thing it says, you got to save it locally. Well, that's the aggravating part. Let me save it locally, and we're going to save it, and we're going to put it to JuicePC. That's my account. I have them Gmail, Outlook, everything like that. That's my kind of, I've had it for years. That's just my go-to thing. So we're going to publish it to that workspace, as y'all are all used to. Ready to go. Publishing takes a few seconds for it to push up, and we're going to transfer from Power BI Desktop to Power BI Online. And huge, huge thing. It's already ready for mobile consumption. It's ready for sharing, integration, all this stuff. It's just, the ecosystem is phenomenal. And I promise I don't work for Microsoft, but I do like to sell their products. So now that we've got this thing published up to the web and we've got it ready to go, we have completed this. Our BA has signed off, yes, you've met all the requirements. Our project manager says you are complete with the project, you're ready to go. And now I'm going to hand it to Will. And I'm going to say, Will, here's your report. Have fun with it. Well, Will's immediately going to say, well, I'm a power user. I'm going to come in here. And you want to know what? I think I want to save a copy of this, manipulate it, do some other fun stuff with it. And then I'm going to come in and say, no, what else can I do? I can edit this thing. I can export this thing. I can do a lot of stuff. And as we come in here, he's going to say, you know what? I'm going to download Power BI Desktop. I want to be able to change the colors on this, the themes, the schemes, and all that, which is totally legit. People don't like certain colors. Red, yellows, greens, they get a little funky sometimes. Will's a blue man. I like stuff in a blue tint. We're going to do that. So he comes in, he figures out, oh, I'll download the PBIX file and I'll start modifying this thing. So, and again, I apologize. I'm on Xfinity, so my internet is a little funky sometimes. But we'll download this file. And if we're going to close out Power BI just to be safe here.
You're coming through loud and clear for me.
Thank you, sir. So we're going to come out here, close this here. So it's exporting Power BI. So again, it's just a real fun XML version. We're downloading it here, and we're going to show in the folder. And we can see that this is the blog demo, September. Working good. I open it up. And again, I'm pretending to be Will now, my alter ego. I come in here, I want to make a change, I want to do something else. And we'll let it load, and we'll just take this out and say, you know what, I'm going to remove this visual. So Will comes in and he says, you know what, I don't have access. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to say it's Will, H's version. Save this, and we're going to publish it. Oh, why are you doing that? Sorry about that. Lord help when you try to do an organizational test for Microsoft, they want you to log in each time. And now we're going to upload it to my workspace. And we select this. And some of y'all are already shaking your head going, I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. And you're right, it is. Now we've got two reports with the same data set. Which one wins? And that's the issue. Because Power BI is part of the Power platform. It's highly collaborative. It's one of these things that you want people to do this. You want to be able to hand this over. You want to be able to set it and forget it and let your end users do this. One of my favorite things I absolutely love is when I left my last company, the CFO was creating reports and doing modifications and all that stuff. When he needed changes, he was able to do it, and we made it highly flexible. So as we start looking at our workspace now, we can see we've got 2 reports in here. That kind of sucks. That's a bad thing. And if we come in here now, and I am an end user and say, you know what, I want to download this PBIX file again. Oh, sorry. Data center, back here. Got my little window giving me problems here, so we're going to download. Oh, there it goes. It's exporting. So we're going to export this another time. And as it's going to happen, we know Windows is great. Windows knows that, oh, you want to keep each version of this and all that. So it's going to put a parentheses 1 around this title. And that's going to give us problems, because as we start working on this, as we start doing this, we're going to see we're going to have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these files sitting out here. Now, which one wins? I can look at dates, I can look at this, but most of your end users have no idea. They just kind of do their own flippant thing, and they put out fires all the time, and that's part of the problem. But we really want to hand this over to them and say, do it, just do it, have fun with this. So what we're going to instruct now is we're going to start doing the goodness, the piece that I want to talk about in the air quotes of the source control. If you look at Power BI, you actually have the ability to go to the workspace. And this is kind of limited with the professional version, and you really need to talk to your IT department about this, because once they get this all done, we'll use the term synergy. Once this is all synergized, I know that's a fun word to talk about, we can see that we've got these 2 reports sitting out here that have almost the same date. And as far as a data person, I would choose the one with the earliest date. That's the original, going back and forth. Well, if we click the ellipses here, we can see files. And each time you start up a workspace, depends on how your Office 365 is configured. I'm going to highly recommend that it creates a SharePoint site. In other words, you don't allow independent workspace creations. That anytime a workspace is created inside of SharePoint, it also creates a workspace inside of Power BI. It creates a team and a OneDrive. And the reason for that is now we actually have a SharePoint site. And with SharePoint, we actually have the ability to sync it up with OneDrive. And this is where the secret sauce comes in. We sync this up. It says, hey, you're about to do some stuff. You're syncing the Juice PC documents down, and it's saying get ready to sync all this stuff. And I kind of did it beforehand. So now we have a SharePoint drive here. This is where the good part comes in. So as we manipulate these PBIX files, if we place them inside of the OneDrive, now the OneDrive is great. We can pull up OneDrive, as you know, from a mobile machine. We can pull it up from just a web browser. We can pull it up from a desktop machine, laptop. Basically, if it can run any type of operating system, you can pull up OneDrive. I tested on my Mac. You can pull it up there. It's easy. It's great. It's no problem. So we'll let this, I've got a green checkbox that lets it say that it's synced. And if we come here and we issue a refresh, we see that our Power BI is located now inside of our SharePoint drive. This is a good thing. This is where we want to go. So as the person that I like to do this, I like to remove stuff. If I don't know what it is, delete it, get rid of it, because it's not helping me out. So we're going to delete this content, take it out. We're going to remove the data set here. Now, because this is a SharePoint site, we can assign groups, we can assign multiple users, we can do a lot of goodness with this. And the good part is, now that we have Power BI desktop in play, this file is treated locally. It's cached, it's pulled down from SharePoint, it's down to our local machine. We can launch it just like normal. We don't have to export the PBIX file. We don't have to shared around, email it. I don't know how many times I've been emailed a PBX file, and it just creates a lot of havoc and a lot of problems. So as we can see, these graphics are here. We're going to remove them. We'll remove one, and we'll save it and publish it again. So now we're operating out of our, and I apologize for this asking me to log in each time. And just so I don't have to type all that, and again, commit it to save it. There we go. And now we've got our SharePoint site. So we're going to publish it out to the world, to Juice PC. Now we're ready to go. And again, hugely impressed by Power BI, the fact that I can administer this, work on this on my local machine, and then push out the changes to everybody in a few seconds. I know years past trying to push SSRS reports, trying to refresh cache, doing all this, Power BI really shines getting the information to the masses, where before it just took forever to do. So we have a report in place, and we can see we removed one of the graphics there, ready to go. So comes into play, somebody says, nope, I want this secondary graphic removed. Great, no problem. I remove it. And again, like everything else, before you publish, it's going to ask you to save. That's pretty standard. Now it's saving back to OneDrive. That's the critical piece of this. And we publish this out because we want to publish very quickly. Yes, replace it. Yeah, go ahead, do it. Don't worry about it. Just do my thing. Let me do my job. Let me get this thing up and going so the end users can do this. We publish this out. We'll do this one more time after this just to make sure. And they called back and they said, you know what? That looks good. Refresh this here. It looks great. Well, no, we really just want this one visual down here. Fine, 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 fine. You all have all had this before. Make the changes, do this, do that. No, the development cycle is, I don't abide by the rules. I want the changes as I see fit. Just make the changes. Sure. And reporting is one of those that sometimes, you know, they don't like to set it and forget it. It's just make the changes as we need. We've got a board meeting coming up. So we made 3 changes now. We open this up, we look at it, and we can see the one graphic. Now, what usually happens? You get a call 30 minutes before this big meeting, and they say, oh, we really needed that graphic there. That one's there. Now, your choice as a person that builds this. You can either go to a file you've got saved somewhere, archived, and build it, or you can build it again from scratch, potentially move a data set, an access name, something like that. Or you can actually go to the SharePoint site, and if we refresh this, now because it's SharePoint, we can look at the version history, see what changes have gone on. And then we can actually say, you know what, I want, come here, to restore this one. And now we've got our file here that's going on. And as we come into Power BI, and we'll close this out, I apologize for the sluggishness here. And we'll make sure green checkbox looks good. Takes just a few seconds to open up. Again, I'm a huge fan of the new logo. I really like it. And we can see now we've got our restored graphic. And you're able to come in. Oh, you got it. Okay, so my cache went away.
That
Sorry,
is strange that it's prompting you so much.
I think it's because I set up a 90-day trial of a corporate account.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. And again, I wiped my computer last night because I wanted all this stuff fresh. So again, a little scary. Sometimes it's not cached, so it's just working. and then we replace the data set. So outside of my faulty typing and it asking for this, we're probably about a minute total of rolling back a Power BI and getting it. And if we come here now, we should see the two visuals right there now. So it's not so much source control, but it's using all of the ecosystem to make it a lot easier. Because here's the thing. I can let this be somebody else, somebody outside of my team, my data warehousing team, my Power BI team. I can give this over to the business, let them operate in SharePoint. This is relatively easy. You can walk somebody through this over the phone to restore a report. If you were to try to do it another way of pulling up from a directory and doing all this, it's not what they're used to. It's going to take time. It's going to take energy. But to be able to come back here and say, restore this, you can honestly get one of your help desk people, operational side of the fence, to do this. They come in, they pull it here, it's recovered, and the end user, we can see that it's actually good. I'm glad that it's able to show this. It's reverting back to the original. So you can do that official handoffs of development to operations, which is what we really would like to do. Okay, come on now, you can do it. Now, of course, it's going to lock up this.
William, I was thinking of contrasting it with something like GitHub,
Yep.
which would be too technical for a business person.
No, and that's the big thing. That's you're hitting the nail on the head. If you were to look at this from GitHub or TFS or something like that, check the code in, look for the differences. No, it's too much. It's too busy. And see, now we've got all four of we're back to our original state. It's just too much for the end user, because Power BI at its root is a collaborative platform. You want to be able to share this. You want people to design it on the fly. Heck, you've got the ability to do data type changes, advanced modeling, super easy. From a hardcore developer, like you said, the mid-level Lego, to be a hardcore small block, Power BI is kind of frustrating. You can't put things exactly where you want it. You can't do the nitty gritty that you can do in SQL or some of the logic apps. But for the masses, it's great. And that's the piece that we really want to get across, is it's not so much of a source control, it's more of a revisioning, and it's source control for your end users. They're actually able to now roll this back to versioning all this. One of the last examples I did at Lee Company was we had a report that we were running a $200 million leg of the company with, for forecasting these 20, 30, $40 million skyscrapers that we're building downtown. And someone had got in and changed the labeling of the report, so it looked like it flipped. So we're able to use this very quickly, change this around, and within a couple of minutes, they were able to get a big bid for a $40 million hotel, things like this. And of course, the hotel stopped with the viruses and all that, but this is where we're headed. This is where we kind of need to go with our thought process. It's how can we utilize the ecosystem to help us out? Using traditional source controls like Git and using TFS and all that are great, but let me see if it will let me pull up. It might not. There you go. So yeah, Notepad, it's a bunch of gibberish. And when you look at it inside of TFS, you check it in, it's just a bunch of overgrown XML. And some people have a mindset that they are checking in the TFS and the M queries of each one of the data set pools, but that could be 2, 3, 10, 100. You could have tons of these. And it's just not efficient. But if you're willing to hand this over, and that's where it becomes in, this is your prized possession, this is your puppy, your child, that you built this report and you hand it over to the business. To me, this is what I think of source control with the business of Power BI. It's enabling them to make those changes, to do those screw ups. Because if you make it too difficult, they're not going to adopt it. They're going to just look at it and say, now granted, Will, you're consultant and things like this, and you're billable per hour. So you really like them when they say, we're not going to touch it, we're going to let Will handle it every single time. However, if you get more people working on these things and getting more of the education, that IT IQ level higher, it starts changing the game. Went from one user, myself, to now having 25 to 50 users at a previous company, administering and writing these reports using this methodology. And it was great. I got called in to consult at the company. I didn't have to write all these reports. It let people be very, very flexible. Now, the current company I'm at, their Power BI utilization is about 1% or less. They're a Tableau shop. While Tableau is very curated, very refined, it's the guy in the tuxedo. It's very good. When you make a Tableau report, it's fit and finished. But most of your business users are fine with 50% or 80% of what they want. That they just want to get something. They don't care if it takes 6 months or a year. Give me something now. And to be able to put in some of these principles and be able to put in some of these ecosystem things like SharePoint, to be able to tie this in the workspaces and have that inclusion makes it great. Now, since we've done this all inside of one SharePoint, OneDrive, Power BI, gives us the ability now to use Teams. And Teams, of course, has become the poster child. Again, we're on Zoom right now, but Microsoft has used Teams as a poster child of here's how you really can interact with all of our ecosystems. So you're able now to take Power BI, throw it into Teams. And as they make changes, as they do stuff, Teams even updates and lets them know. So now you've even got that push me, pull me of we've made changes to the reports. It throws a notification and says, hey, William's made a change to that report. Again, that whole ecosystem. So this is what I am calling source control versioning with Power BI. I've looked at Git, I've looked at TFS, I've looked at some other things, and it's just not quite there right yet. Now, since Power BI has that dual, what is it, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde functionality, they've got the front-end desktop piece, and then they've got the web version. Right now, until we can do everything in the web, we kind of have to use the tools to do the source control. So I think I have said all my words that I've had for right now. I'm open for questions and things like that. Will, unless there's something else that I've potentially missed or skipped over that doesn't make sense. So.
No, that's great. Yeah, I'm curious if people have questions. I could start with a question. Did you have a case where somebody deleted the file from OneDrive? Are you able to retrieve it if that happens?
Yes. Oh, definitely. We had that several. We had a employee that created a lot of content, but he was also bad about when he handed it over to the end users, he thought, set it, forget it, it's done. And he would delete the source. And one of the things that's really good is when you work with your operational side, they can go to SharePoint and actually look at the recycle bin and restore these things. And the good part is, I believe it keeps it for 5 years, is usually what Microsoft recommends. Excuse me. But yes, we've had total removal happen. And again, you have to work with operations, but they're able to recover that back and get it back. Where before, you know, if you issue a shift delete or something like that on your local machine, it's gone. Or if you overwrite it, that's the big problem. If you overwrite the file, it's no longer there. So yes, we have had that. Work with your SharePoint administrator, and I want to say it can host up to 12 terabytes worth of files per site. I can't remember exactly. It's either 5 or 12. It depends on blob storage utilization, but I think it's 5 terabytes in a small section, 12 in a large, that you can host files, something like that. So
there, you could probably have a Power Automate or something nightly back up the files. So you have one that users aren't touching if you did need to.
Yep, you can tell, again, that's part of the ecosystem. So you've got Power Automate, you've got Logic Apps. You can, one of the big things that we were able to do was we integrated this with CRM. So as an opportunity was one, it would spin up a SharePoint site, a Microsoft team, a Power BI workspace, and then dump the data set for that opportunity into Power BI as it was created. So within 2 minutes, we had people up and running with information. But yeah, because it's in OneDrive, that gives you a ton of flexibility with, like you said, Power Automate. And you can even tie that back to DevOps, that as somebody creates a new PBIX file inside of OneDrive, you can create a task inside of DevOps or do something else or vice versa. So yes.
Nice.
Uh,
I have another question, but I'm going to let someone else ask a question before
Sure.
I do. We'll have some awkward silence and give people a chance.
oh, no problem.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Yes.
can hear
Okay.
you.
Just making sure I'm not double muted. Have you been able to figure out how to automatically add comments when you do a load into into SharePoint?
Yes, that was actually part of Logic Apps. And again, because Logic Apps is just an enterprise version of Power Apps or Power Automate, sorry. So yes, we were able to do that. It took a couple of Azure functions, but we were able to, as each revision happens, we were able to add comments, add tasking, things like that. I'll have to look through my notes, but I'll be more than happy to share that with Will, or at least the company that helped us out with that. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, because we're utilizing Git for version control just because of the comments kind of concept.
Oh, Power Apps 911. That was the company we utilized. I actually had a previous coworker, Stephen Ferris, works for them now, so I might forward that over to this group. But they did a great job with Power Apps and Power Automate and Logic Apps. So.
Hi, can you hear me?
Why, yes, we can.
Wonderful. So just going to throw a scenario out there that I actually saw pretty recently. We have a lot of reports that point to a data set. They look at it, and that master data set was deleted from Power BI. So even though we had the file sitting backed up and all of those reports that previously pointed at the old data set, it didn't matter, because once we uploaded the master back to Power BI, those reports didn't recognize the new master. They recognized that the new master wasn't exactly the exact same file, if that makes sense.
Now, was this a static file like an Excel file or CSV or something like that?
No, it was a Power BI file.
Oh, Power BI file. Yeah, that I have had some weirdness like that happen before. Yeah, it's OneDrive takes care of probably 90% of those type of issues, but there are some like that where if it's, yeah.
Because of that, is it bad practice to point reports at a data set? Because a data set can take so much with it if it goes down.
Yes.
I have a thought, Micah, if I may weigh in, William.
Go for it.
So I think it's kind of the hub and spoke design where you have one model but multiple reports feeding off of it, which I think is a good design. But what you described is the problem is I don't know if you can reconnect the data set without, so you could download the PBIX reports and then reconnect it to the data set in the cloud and then republish it. So it would be multiple steps, but you could reconnect those reports. I don't know if that's what you did.
Well, unfortunately, what happened is everything that lived in Power BI that was pointing at that data set, when the data set was deleted, it took everything with it. So nothing in Power BI that was pointed at it continued to exist there.
That's not good.
If you connect to a data set like that, which more and more people are encouraging, Micah, I think that's a good thing. But what actually happens is when you build the report out, you're building it with a live connection and not a direct connection, not an import situation, and that's why that happened. And there's probably some code in there that gets assigned. So I mean, and even though the name might be the same, the ultimate code would be different. One of the things that I recommend people do, and I love this concept, by the way, William, of using SharePoint, because I love Teams and I use Teams as my user interface for SharePoint Online. I just love that. But I encourage people to, and this is something you do with your data set before you publish your data set and then build reports off of it and your reports. If you create a template of it, just export a template, that is another great way. I mean, and you're still have to store it someplace secure so people don't get access to it,
Yep.
can't go in and delete it. But you would be able to, at that point, say, okay, all the reports that are built off of it, we're going to, we'll leave those there, but we're going to reinstall or locally run both or reinstall the data set. And then we're going to pull up the templates for those reports locally, reconnecting them to that data, that just changing the connection in the query editor and then republishing them. And that's a way you could get around that. But that's a good practice, because then you're not duplicating a lot of data. And if there's a change that needs to be made, you only have that one local source to do it, and you're less likely to break something. But exporting those template files is a really big deal as far as code protection. And you can even name them some unique name to indicate, what they represent. So.
Yep, I like that. Thank you so much.
Has that been isolated to just reporting developers that's been doing that, or have you let the business do those templates also?
I think whoever develops a report should always create a template of it. It's just too small a file it's just self-preservation. I mean, if you have a report that has 25 or 30 pages on it, who wants to rework all of that, right?
Oh, no, not this guy. No,
Yeah,
man.
not
I'm with
me
you.
either. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I put in the link, there's a YouTube video from my friend Andrea. You could get, for the temporary one, you could get a free dev account for just to build things in and practice with. Everyone could get that. And there's a YouTube link in there where you could watch on how to do it. She'll walk you through that. So free play space. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Microsoft is making it super easy now to get a developer. I mean, I was able to spin up an entire corporation and all that. I did it last night. This one took about 30 minutes and they gave me 90 days of it, a full E5 license with everything. So it's phenomenal. I mean, they're really ramping up the ability to develop things.
Yeah, and with the dev license, you can just keep renewing it, even though it's considered a trial. They figure the more you play in it, the more you want to do.
Oh yeah, the more credit card purchases you'll do at your company. Yes, ma'am.
But I love the idea of SharePoint, because you could build some flows using Power Automate. Every time somebody saves a file there, it notifies the Power BI admin, hey, there's a new file. This is who created it. This is the file name. And
now you're getting that real stressor of the ecosystem. Yes, you're dead spot on. That again, just to notify certain people very subtly that, hey, somebody's working on this. And again, it's being that big brother ability, but not having them come to you. You're able to go to the business and say, hey, what you working on? What are you doing? Instead of, we saw you made a change, stop it. So, because we don't want to do that, because that leads to bad things. So.
Did that make sense, Micah, doing it that way? I mean, it doesn't help you today, but.
Well, but it is something that I can begin to make happen, just slowly reworking. So I think so, yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Micah? How long did it take you to redo all of those reports that failed like that?
About a week.
Ooh, okay.
I thought you were going to say, I'll let you know.
Okay, still a week's too long to have to do stuff like that. Oh, man.
And building on those flow things, if you're using the Power Automate inside of Teams, those you get so many free flow connections in your license, and you're not taking away from your Power Automate licensing. So as they start adding all those in, you guys really, really, really want to take advantage of everything in Teams.
Yeah. And that you're dead spot on. And that's why having this kind of nested like we do, yeah. And again, even the Power Automate, the licensing for that is not so bad. It does creep up there, but I want to say the last place I was at, we had 5,000 flows going on throughout the company, and it was, a few $100s a month. But the impact that it had with the business was huge. And once they understood that if this, then that mentality, people were writing flows left and right to automate themselves out of a job, so to speak.
Well, again, you get a lot of free ones in Teams, so take
Yes, ma'am.
advantage of those. Free license.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And you could, using the CDS Lite, and Daniel, that's what I call it. Daniel put in the right name. Dataverse
Mhm.
for Teams. You could build a table that tracks all of the reports that have been added to the SharePoint list, so you could always
Mhm.
monitor what the heck is going on.
Yep. And the new data lineage that's coming into play that we were showing off, showing off with data flow, Power Query and all that, that's good. And then once you start linking all this stuff up with Azure Data Catalog, it super empowers your users and really gives that transparency that most data people kind of are very hesitant about giving back to the company and saying, hey, here's how the tables are structured, here's how they're interwoven and all this stuff. Now go out and go create stuff. But yeah, once you get the Power Automate going, the ecosystem and all of this, it again, I don't work for Microsoft, but I really like their products.
You could, Micah, even with Flow, create this complex weave of Internet of Things. So when somebody deletes something, their chair kind of gets a little jolt of electricity.
Uh,
Huh.
That might stop it.
that is strangely, that is a possibility. So
I like that because I think right now there's nothing more than a single pop-up window to stop you from doing it. And once you click past that.
Well, in that case, you can make it what I refer to as an electronic tattletale system. So you can create some mythical creature inside your network, and it could pop up and say something like, ooh, George is going to tell on you for deleting that. And you might as well have fun with it. And then, but seriously, you might could stop a bigger problem down the road.
You could throttle down their VPN connection. Yeah, you could totally do some stuff. Yeah. Change their team's background to I did it. There you
go. William, this is Aaron Kelly. I have a question. You had just mentioned here at the tail end of your response, Azure Data Catalog.
Yes.
Part of an organization that's looking at utilizing it, you can import analysis services.
Mm-hmm.
That's a supported data source as we're trying to document some of the data sources. If they can do analysis services, they ought to be able to do Power BI data sets, because it's built on the same back end. Curious if you could speak to kind of how you guys have been using Azure Data Catalog, and if at all with, I assume the answer is no, if you're able to do something with cataloging Power BI solutions.
I don't believe it will catalog Power BI solutions. However, we just did an exercise in our Postgre database, pulling that in. And of course, you can fully understand, being a data person, trying to let a BDA or business data analyst kind of stick their fingers in those databases and look around becomes very hard. But the Azure Data Catalog, we're at the infancy stage right now with myNEXUS of pulling things in and getting that going. I did have it at Lee Company. We had it kind of a little more curated. But as far as the Power BI data sets, I don't believe you have that ability. And I am on my personal machine, so I can't look it up right now to double check it. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I attempted 3 weeks ago, and it's not there. But I guess what I was saying is, if they're able to do analysis services, which they can,
yep,
I don't think it'd take Microsoft much doing to allow a Power BI data set.
No, you should be able to. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the next logical step would let you be able to do that, because all the hooks are there with Azure Data Catalog of saying, hey, open it, Power BI, Excel, SSMS, all this fun stuff, but does it have the inverse of absorbing that?
Right.
Yeah, that's probably one of their mythical Q5 releases. So yeah.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Aaron, I was actually gonna ask a question and rope you into it if you were on the call.
I am ropeable.
So I was gonna ask about the features they put into the service where it shows you the changes to the data sets and the files between workspaces or between the workspace and the deployed app. I knew you had used that, Aaron. I've never used it, so I didn't know if how that, or William, if you've used it and how that would factor into your
Not yet.
deployment process. Yeah,
Not yet.
Yeah,
for me.
you're talking about deployment pipelines.
that's right. Yep.
My experience is limited. You can, from what I can see, it will compare your two workspaces, tell you what has changed. But as far as I can tell, I don't think it tells you what within the report has changed, right? Just that there is a change. If somebody else has additional insight there, feel free to jump in.
That's where taking the notes on your revisions would be helpful. That's probably the best you can get at this point.
What about using a tabular editor to document the model? Document changes from one version to another. Wouldn't help with the UI layer, but what about the data model?
I think that would work. It would be, well, yeah, for a business user, it would not work. But if, yeah, I don't know, Michael, how to make it automatic. That's the only problem. It's an extra step that people would have to adhere to.
Yeah, there's. Good question though.
I have a question back on the fuzzy grouping new concept that's being pushed out. Is that something that, would be possible to help with doing cross-reference files, do you think? So instead of having to maintain a list to, of 10 things to say these are all item A, even though they have all these different descriptions, do you think that would be the concept to kind of utilizing that, or?
I think it might not have as much precision as you would want, but again, I don't think anybody on this call has tried it yet, so you could be the first to try it and report back to us. Since it just came out, I have not used it, so. But you do have access to it since your organization has premium, so.
Yeah, I'll try it out.
You could give it a try. But I do know it's more of you're using a slider about how fuzzy you want it to be. So there, I could see it not working in some cases the way you want it to, and you probably wouldn't have the ability to put a case statement in there. But maybe you could, like, afterward, or you could preempt it and catch those things that the algorithm doesn't catch and then let it do the rest. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear what you think.
Would it maybe be, I would probably try doing both options, but then would creating a new calculation be the best approach to do like a wildcard search within that column to make a unique key, or not a unique key, a new name to make that roll up level?
I think that would be a safe way to do it. Then you could have the original and the algorithm version, and you would get that similarity score. And then maybe you could have a human look at it afterward and verify that it categorized it correctly. I think that's a good idea, Jennifer, with your case. I think it's worth trying.
Yeah, I really don't want to redo, a million lines of a cross file. So
that's right. No, I think it's a good idea.
Well, then I will keep it posted.
Yeah. Well, guys, we are at time, so we want to end the meeting on time. So you guys, because it is a work day, thank you for joining us, and thank you, William, for this great presentation and all these good ideas about using the ecosystem to help the business use Power BI safely and help your organization move forward with Power BI. So thanks a lot, William. We really
no
appreciate
problem.
it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
And again, you can RSVP for our next month on the meetup right now.
Might just do that.
Yeah, not just you personally, William, but
Oh,
that
well,
would
I
be
thought
great.
it was a private invitation. So sorry.
It
No,
is. It
no.
is. And William, you should come next month as well.
Okay.
Have you been to our meeting before, William?
I have not, and I
Okay.
think I might start making this one of my monthly occurrences that I come to. So
That would be awesome.
If we're lucky, we can hear Alberta say his favorite line. DAX is easy, but it's not simple.
Yeah, you won't want to miss next month. That's for certain.
I know I've heard those guys speak before. So yes, they're interesting. So
Yep. Well, everybody have a good day. Thanks for joining.
all right, thank you.
Bye.